Today's video is brought to you by our friends over at Brilliant, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want to actually learn something new in the fields of mathematics, data analysis, programming, or even artificial intelligence in a fun, actual, effective way that'll stick with you versus just trying to memorize everything? Ladies and gentlemen, Brilliant is a learning platform designed to be uniquely effective with actual approaches that are designed with lessons built from the ground up. So whether you're somebody with actually no expertise in a topic or you're somebody with some advanced level of knowledge, you will always be able to learn something new in a method proven to be 6 times more effective than just watching lecture videos on the internet. Plus, all the content on Brilliant is created by an award-winning team of teachers and professionals from MIT to Caltech to Google to Microsoft and so on and so forth. And of course, if you're talking about problem-solving skills, that is an absolute must. Not memorizing, something that you'll actually be using to build real knowledge on specific topics. So not only will you learn how to do these topics, but you'll also be a better thinker. And of course, if you want to learn a little bit a day or a lot, that'll actually help build an important habit. So whether for personal or professional growth, you can build real knowledge in just minutes a day. And of course, Brilliant makes it incredibly easy to learn right on your phone, with fun lessons that you can do whenever you actually have the time to fit them in. So whether you're diving into something brand new or taking a quick practice session, literally it takes minutes to actually evolve your knowledge. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for a free full 30 days, check out brilliant.org/SOG or scan the QR code on screen. And you will also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. That said, let's get to the video. July 6, 2016 is when Pokémon Go finally made its rounds into everyone's smartphones. Now back in the day, you might recall a whole bunch of people running around, capturing Pokémon, setting up lures, having literal turf battles with each other over the real world, playing with Pokémon on the go. Now, Pokemon Go, ladies and gentlemen, is quite literally an augmented reality, Pokemon game where you actually go into the real world, walk around, and capture Pokemon. It basically works off of a in-game map that is reflected off of your actual real world where you walk around or geolocated, and you can play with other players, you can explore by yourselves, and on the surface it seems like a pretty harmless game, but it's a game that actually has a fair level of controversy surrounding it. The government of Bosnia back in 2016, around the release of the game, warned people that they shouldn't be walking into actual minefields. Translating their press release, they said, "Today we received information that there are cases where users of the Pokemon Go application in Bosnia and Herzegovina enter mine-suspected risky areas in order to find Pokemon. All citizens are requested not to do this and to respect the mine danger signs." I'm just going to say, dog, if you're walking around in a minefield looking for digital Pokemon, then maybe that's just natural selection taking the course. But one thing that isn't actually laughably funny here is Hamdi Bahit, a member of Egypt's Committee of Defense and National Security, actually told the parliament there that Pokemon Go is the latest tool used by spy agencies in the intelligence war, a cunning, despicable app that tries to infiltrate our communities in the most innocent way under the pretext of entertainment. But all they really want is to spy on people and the state. Now, that's a pretty big, serious claim, and it's one that actually Niantic has had to try and refute and actually outright deny that it was actually, used as an espionage tool. A spokeswoman from their actual company ended up denying the allegations that the game is a tool of espionage, and even said the company asks all users to abide by local laws and respect the locations you visit and the people you meet during your exploration. Which obviously any company is going to say. I mean, who the fuck would actually say the opposite of that if they want some good public relations? Now, the Pokemon Go CIA conspiracy is not exactly something that's entirely new. 9 years ago on the Pokemon Go Reddit, which, my god, does time actually fly, Pokemon Go and the Central Intelligence Agency. So you all know the company that made Pokemon Go is connected to the Central Intelligence Agency. Not kidding. I know it sounds like typical conspiracy bullshit, but you do your own homework, which don't worry, we will in this video, and trace Niantic and its CEO, John Hanke, who funds his projects. It's right there. But if you're comfortable scanning your surroundings in high definition for the CIA and Google, by all means continue feeding the AI its deep learning material. So this was a conspiracy that came out that if you were actually using your cell phone and walking around, that you were capturing images that would be sent to Niantic and immediately help the CIA. Well, part of this conspiracy theory actually ended up getting completely proven. And who ended up proving it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was actually Niantic themselves. So one of these actual posts that came out about a few days ago, November 12th of this year, they said they were building a large geospatial model to achieve spatial intelligence. So basically, by going down over here, they kind of described that when you look at a familiar type of structure, whether it's a church, a statue, or a town square, it's fairly easy to imagine what it might look like from other angles. Even if you haven't seen it from all sides, as humans, we have spatial understanding. That means we can fill in these details based on countless similar scenes we've encountered before. But for machines, this task is extraordinarily difficult. Even the most advanced AI models today struggle to visualize and infer missing parts of a scene or to imagine a piece from a new angle. And this is about to change: spatial intelligence. So what they basically mentioned was Niantic's visual positioning system, which is a VPS, has been trained on 50 million neural networks, more than 150 trillion parameters, enabling operation in over 1 million locations. So this will help computers perceive, comprehend, and navigate the physical world in a way that will seem equally advanced. So analogous to the LLMs, stuff like ChatGPT that you're using, geospatial models are built using vast amounts of raw data. Billions of images in the world, all anchored to precise locations on the globe, are distilled into a large model that enables a location-based understanding of space, structures, and physical interactions. Now, where does all this information, this raw data, come from? Well, if you've been following, ladies and gentlemen, it probably comes from a whole bunch of applications Niantic has built. So if you look at Niantic's history, some of the games that are available right now are games like Ingress Prime, which came, from my understanding, before Pokémon Go. But Pokémon Go and Monster Hunter Now are two gaming-themed versions of Niantic's mapping software. So any of the actual data that has been gathered from Pokémon Go or Monster Hunter Now could, and most likely, from my understanding and my personal belief, was used in actually assisting this company build this crazy geospatial model. So with 500 million downloads just on Android, that's a lot of data to be grabbing, okay? And not only are we looking at money that obviously they're making, Nintendo is making, the data that they're allowed to grab, let's just look at the permissions for Android alone. So the data that this company collects obviously is photographs and video, which obviously if you allow Pokemon Go the ability to use your augmented reality feature, they can start looking at, the actual video, maybe even a photo as you're capturing the Pokemon. And of course, the further you go down, obviously each of those photos or video sessions are again connected to a location. Sometimes it can be approximate for analytical reasons, and obviously if you're playing a game where being on a map and geolocated at all times is a necessity, then having your precise location is the most important part, okay? So they kind of show that over the past 5 years, they were focused on building this VPS, and which uses a single image from a phone to determine its position and orientation using a 3D map built from people scanning interesting locations in our game. So they straight up say it's from their actual games. Like, come on now. So this is like a heat map of generally where information is grabbed. So all over North America, Europe, basically around the world. India, for instance, is pretty popping over here. Japan, all throughout like Eastern Europe. Parts of China, Australia, where people live. And of course, one thing they showed was the actual neural mapping as well. So to give an idea, they made this 30-second video to showcase what this works, so a 5-minute neural map. So learning an image from posed RGB images. So here they have a series of images from my understanding, and their neural map allows you to build an understanding of that location in this digital space. So again, that's kind of the stuff that they've been building. But Muda, how does the Central Intelligence Agency fit into this? So when I started looking up where the actual source of this big conspiracy was popping up again, I found that 5 days ago on boards like Kotaku in Action, it seems Niantic is using Pokemon Go as a means to collect large amounts of visual training data. They absolutely have admitted it, for topographic modeling and generative AI or other things. And this led me to a channel known as the Lunduke Journal. There was another post 4 days ago on r/Pokemon Go where it said in 2016 this was Lunduke's crazy conspiracy theory about Pokemon Go being used to spy on everyone backed by the CIA. And now in 2024, Niantic Labs proudly brags about using Pokemon Go to spy on you and using that covertly obtained information to build a massive 3D artificial intelligence. Now, I don't think it's necessarily covert. I think anytime there's a free game, especially one that tracks your location and uses your camera, there's probably another ulterior reason that a company would provide you that kind of a game for free. Remember, if something is free, you're definitely the product. And if you think Pokemon Go makes these guys a lot of money, having the ability to map 3D locations from just fucking photos is some crazy level of tech that a lot of governments are willing to pay money for, especially the United States government. So I went to Brian's channel over here, and Brian, whose most popular video literally is 7 days ago, the Pokemon Go spying conspiracy theory, yeah, it's verified. So, you know, this is just Brian's assessment, and this is Brian's words saying that this is possibly just the CIA or some spying conspiracy that's occurring, right? But anyways, how do we connect Pokemon Go to the Central Intelligence Agency? Well, this is where we have to look at the history of the company. So you have to go all the way back to 2001 in this situation, and you have to basically embroider yourself in something known as Google Earth. So for anybody that has used Google Earth, you probably know that it's the amazing software that allows you to basically examine any location in our world. So for instance, do you want to see how Tokyo looks instead of just your standard mapping software? Well, you can just zoom right on in. And in fact, some cities have so much information provided that you can zoom literally into any point and get almost a 3D representation of what the roads look like, of houses. I mean, this is some crazy, crazy shit. Now, you might be like, well, Muda, why are you bringing up Google Earth now? Well, Google Earth, ladies and gentlemen, actually has ties to Niantic. So you might be like, where did Google Earth come from? It wasn't actually made at Google, ladies and gentlemen. No. This actually was developed by a company known as Keyhole Incorporation. Now, the thing about Keyhole is they actually did have software that you could actually use. Now, this was something known as Earth Viewer 3D. So that image of Tokyo I showed you was cool, but obviously this is what it used to look like all the way back in like the early 2000s. Obviously not as granular, not as impressive, but getting an idea of satellite imagery connected like this is still mind-blowing to anyone. And obviously this was connected to the internet, so you have to launch a client that looked much like this and basically use their servers to get access to, again, this kind of 3D information. So the guy behind it, John Hankey, for anybody that doesn't know, worked on, I believe, Google's like geo products, so stuff like Google Earth, Google Maps, Street View, all that stuff was basically the brainchild of this individual right here. Now, the technology he made with Earth Viewer was so popular that apparently big publications, big news agencies like CNN, CBS, were basically using it to cover the invasion of Iraq, right, back in 2003, where basically they would use their 3D like mapping imagery to do these flyovers. Because obviously, guys, they're not going to be sending in like helicopters and shit to an active war zone at the time. So they exchanged some attribution, but they found out that it was basically so popular that trying to upkeep the software and keep up those server costs, they weren't actually able to make it happen. Even though they made actual deals with Nvidia, Sony, they literally were unable, because of server costs, to keep this thing running for too long. And not only that, you also had employee turnover to worry about, so it was actually kind of a fucking financial nightmare. I mean, you made something that's really popular, it just wasn't monetized properly. So literally it was this stroke of luck that caused an actual agency as a Central Intelligence Agency to pay closer attention. Now, you might not know it at this moment in time, but a company known as IQT showed up at their doorstep and basically said, hey, you want some money, pal? You want to get that little cash infusion? Well, IQT, for anybody that doesn't know, if you go to their About section, they're pretty honest about this. They are actually a CIA front. So set up in 1999 by the CIA as an independent, not-for-profit strategic investment firm, we spent a quarter century, 25 years, building unparalleled expertise that we draw on to help startups adapt their highly innovative products. So what kind of products have these people fucking invested in? Well, the CIA's IQT nonprofit agency has put money into groups like Skydio, Capella Space, Bounce Imaging, Rocket Lab, Mersive Technologies, and FireEye. To give you an idea, for space alone, they gave these people money because they give them clear and timely satellite imagery, high-resolution stuff that I'm sure the CIA uses for really good reasons, and also when they need to get good, critical analysis of whoever they're targeting for whatever shady reason they need. Now, this isn't a state secret. Like I said, this is something that happens, and this is something that is pretty much available, and we've talked about it in the past. And it's not like it's the only investment they've made. They made 750 plus investments in companies all across Asia, North America specifically, and Europe as well. And in tons of fields, whether it be life sciences, the cyber field, AI, space, they put tons of money at companies that get their attention. Basically, if you're in any organization that is in a specific group or you're analyzing data or capturing these high-resolution space images, you've probably been contacted by these guys at some point, or at least they're following you and shadowing you at this point. It's fucking creepy. So back in 2003, in order to assist this organization, In-Q-Tel decided to actually have a strategic investment in Keyhole, as they mentioned in this press release that I dug up through the Wayback Machine. So immediately demonstrating the value of Keyhole's technology to the national security community, NEMA used the technology to support the United States troops in Iraq. So within 2 weeks of their engagement with Keyhole, we implemented the technology to support our missions within the Pentagon. So chances are, if you were somebody working for, a terror organization in the middle of somewhere on the other side of the world, this software was used to map out your village, map out your home, or, the surroundings of it, and basically assist the US military in how to take your life in a matter of minutes. It's kind of insane how much money gets poured in to discover quirky, unique, safe ways to kill our enemies across the world. If you ever get wilded out about investments like this, remember there's an entire military-industrial complex that has existed for decades, siphoning billions of dollars from the United States governments to develop new weapons, new technologies that ultimately are used to destroy people all over the world. And sometimes, if we're lucky and there's a bit of morality surrounding it, maybe that technology gets trickled down to maybe better our lives in some cases. It's kind of a double-edged sword. A lot of good stuff gets made, and a lot of quirky ways to kill people or spy on people gets discovered as well. So at some point down the road, in 2004, Google ended up actually buying Keyhole for some undisclosed sum, all right? It certainly wasn't cheap. Now you might be like, Muda, why would the CIA even allow a sale like that? I mean, they punched in money for this organization, but I actually believe when it comes to In-Q-Tel, anytime it's a US company purchasing something, that usually goes through. It's not as if it's a foreign adversary or a foreign national purchasing access to technology the CIA has sort of invested money into. Remember, strategic investments are not made for financial boons. They're made so that the technology can be used at some point down the road for operational reasons, and you can imagine why the CIA would need mapping software that's that good. So why would Google want Keyhole? Well, they found out that apparently in Google's world, 25% of the search traffic at the time was all relegated to people looking up route planning or maps. So they figured, hell, we've got billions of dollars, why not buy the best goddamn mapping software in existence? Shit, that's a great idea. And then hopefully roll that over to things like Street View or just Google Maps. Now, back in 2010, it was actually formed as a company, an internal startup within Google itself in 2010. So Niantic effectively is a company that belongs entirely to Google, right? Now, Google used to own this for like 5 years, 2010 to 2015, until obviously 2016 came by. And, they basically split and became their own individual company. But they ended up actually getting a shit ton of funding from Google, obviously, Nintendo, and also the Pokémon company. Like, we're talking millions upon millions of dollars ended up actually going to this organization. Now, one of their first games was Field Trip, then they made Ingress, and then Pokemon Go, and obviously a whole bunch of Nintendo-themed games, until finally they released, like, Monster Hunter Now. So they've made plenty of projects, but a whole chunk of these projects are obviously designed to be used with this live mapping feature that they have, constant photographs that are probably being scanned and grabbed from your devices, all themed underneath these big budget, these most iconic video games. So things like Pokemon that, millions, if not billions around the world might actually download. I think billions is a bit of a stretch. I know that Pokemon's huge, but especially when it comes to mobile gaming, you really have to look between like millions, hundreds of millions, maybe over 1 billion users, which no matter how you cut it, it's still a lot of information that these people can end up actually grabbing. So look, at the end of the day, right, with all of this considered, tons of applications that are free are ultimately designed to gather information off of you and use that information for reasons that actually assist the company beneficially, right? Like financially. So when it comes to, you downloading anything free, whether it be a social media application, a game, even if it's some innocuous software where you download, it, you send it and generate memes, AI generated or enhancements or pictures or whatever, all of these software, if they are free and they're gathering data off of you, that means you are the product, and the data you generate or the data you provide is more beneficial for them to grab and maybe use for something like this, like exactly what Niantic was doing, which is building this, large spatial model that they can then sell to big companies for really important reasons. Now, obviously, I can't confirm that the CIA is really behind any of this. It's just a weird link between these organizations. But to give you an idea, if the CIA was so interested, and this is just my personal analysis, if the CIA was so interested in a 3D mapping software that, again, they could use to basically serve as aerial scanning, for organizations like this, imagine how useful a software where you can basically build a 3D map, a spatial map, based on photographs and have an AI basically realistically build a 3D environment that you could then use to, again, plan situations better, maybe place, 3D operators inside and plan those situations. Again, really awesome. Maybe people could use it as a sort of game or demonstration of how to perform an actual operation. I think that has real value to not just the Central Intelligence Agency, but plenty of intelligence agencies around the world. I think that has plenty of applications in the US military. If you don't see it, then honestly, you probably need to broaden your horizons a little bit. So yeah, I can see the value of this kind of stuff. And ultimately, it's that value that allows me to kind of look at this conspiracy theory with at least more believability than something like, I don't know, the fucking flat earth, for crying out loud, right? Like, this is something where, again, if it came out in 10 years that the CIA used any of the software developed by Niantic to assassinate some fucking person, despot, terrorist, world leader, cartel boss in some part of the world, I would personally not be shocked in any capacity. Ultimately, the people involved in this kind of software all have backgrounds to super spy programs, the CIA investment firms. So honestly, seeing what, Niantic released in that press release is not something that really shocks me. What they were doing was building a massive artificial intelligence that has actual practical applications well beyond gaming off of the backs of free information provided by the average person. So anytime you play Pokemon Go or Monster Hunter or World Go, whatever these games are called, you have most likely contributed to a 3D map, a 3D spatial engine that is now probably being used for features and actual services far beyond gaming. And if a military pays money to tap into that for, again, logical reasons, logical applications that benefit them, it shouldn't really shock you. But to say that this was spying in the sense is a little dubious. I don't think this is spying as much as it is people need to understand that when you're using free software, you are always going to be the product. And honestly, if Pokemon Go scares you with the CIA, I would actually say you should probably be more afraid of mapping software in general. Like, imagine the amount of information that the government could gain off of mapping software, patterns, and analysis based off of that. Imagine if this is how scary Niantic is going to be. Any other software where, again, you're providing images to generate memes, or you're actually providing them for AI enhancements, what's happening with that information that's processed on these servers that you don't know are actually deleting or wiping your information after the use? I mean, these are all things you have to consider in an age where free software exists by the goddamn boatloads. Who's involved in your software? Who's using it to track? Who's using it for nefarious reasons? And who's using it for even positive reasons as well, too? When you upload or post anything or share your location, you have to understand that it's not just going to the company that's developing your game. There's obviously going to be other technologies used in that software that are also going to be peeking into that information as well. And if that doesn't kind of freak you out a little bit, then I actually kind of envy you. But yeah, the Pokemon spying conspiracy, I wouldn't really say it's actually spying. I think it's more that this is free software, and ultimately, Niantic, over the course of the last several years, has gotten so much information off millions of users that they were able to build this crazy artificial intelligence with a data set that literally any company could actually fucking dream of. Now, is this software being used by the Central Intelligence Agency, or do they have access to it? Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm not going to sit here and confirm a conspiracy theory that I actually cannot. Would I be shocked it's real and true? Not at all. But ladies and gentlemen, that was a deep dive into the Pokemon Go CIA conspiracy. So the next time you want to hunt your Pokemon on the go, maybe, just maybe, think about where that information could really be going to. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.